It started with an idea. Now, it's turning into a war. This is the story of how one of the most creative and rebellious minds in grappling took on the biggest giant in combat sports. Craig Jones, the Australian phenom known for his leg locks and even sharper tongue, is publicly accusing the UFC of stealing his entire event concept. And this isn't just some squabble over who thought of what first. This is a battle for the soul and the future of professional jiu-jitsu. It's a conflict that pits a maverick innovator against a corporate machine. And true to form, Craig Jones isn't backing down. His accusation is simple and brutal. The UFC saw his blueprint, and they just took it. Chapter 1: The Maverick and the Machine. To get what's happening here, you first have to understand the two powers colliding. On one side, you have Craig Jones. For years, Jones has been way more than just a world-class grappler with a trophy case full of medals. He's a self-styled agent of chaos, a disruptor who seems to enjoy rattling the cages of the sport's established order. He's the co-founder of the B Team and a guy who built a brand on being both technically brilliant and hilariously profane. He's publicly slammed fighter pay in other big organizations, always positioning himself as a voice for the athletes, the independent contractors, who, as he sees it, are constantly exploited by powerful promotions. He's a guy who gets that in today's media world, personality is power. Through his sharp wit and mastery of social media, he's built a massive following that hangs on his every word, whether it's a technical breakdown or a sarcastic jab at a rival. He's not just a competitor, he's an entertainer, a promoter, and, most importantly, an innovator. On the other side, you have the Machine, the ultimate fighting championship. The UFC is the undisputed king of combat sports, a titan that dragged mixed martial arts from a niche sideshow into a global phenomenon. They are masters of production, marketing, and brand building. They have the money, the platform, and the ambition to dominate any market they set their sights on. And lately, they've set their sights on the booming world of professional grappling. For years, the UFC has hosted the UFC Fight Pass Invitational, a series of grappling events that have cycled through different formats, almost like they were searching for the right formula. They've tried team formats, EBI overtime rules, and point systems. But as no-gi grappling exploded in popularity, the UFC saw a bigger prize. They decided it was time for a full-fledged, standalone grappling league to rival powerhouses like ADCC. They started signing top-tier talent to exclusive contracts, looking to centralize the sport under their famous banner. And as they got ready to launch their new venture, they showed off a new format and a new arena. The only problem? Craig Jones was looking at it, and he was seeing his own reflection. Chapter 2: The Blueprint. So what is Craig so furious about? It really boils down to two key things he says the UFC copied directly from his event, the Craig Jones Invitational, CJI. First, the arena. The CJI is famous for its unique competition surface, a rectangular pit with slanted, padded walls he calls the alley. The design is brilliant because it solves one of grappling's most annoying problems, the reset. On a normal mat, when fighters get to the edge, the ref has to stop the action and drag them back to the center, killing all momentum. In a cage, fighters can just stall against the fence, but the angled walls of the pit do the opposite. They keep athletes in bounds while creating a dynamic surface that makes it hard to defend takedowns or run away. If you get pushed against that slanted wall, you're off balance and vulnerable. It forces action and makes things way more exciting. So when the UFC released promo material for its new grappling show, people noticed something very familiar. Their new arena was also a pit with sloped walls. Jones immediately went to social media, posting side-by-side pictures of the UFC's setup and his own, along with a picture of his patent for the design. The caption was just one sarcastic word: interesting. The message was clear. This wasn't inspiration, it was a ripoff. But it didn't stop there. Jones also claims the UFC copied his rule system. The UFC announced its new grappling league would use 3 5-minute rounds scored on a 10-point must system, the same system used in MMA. This was a huge change from their old grappling events. It was also, conveniently, the exact format the CJI pioneered to make grappling more exciting for a bigger audience. With dripping sarcasm, Jones posted on Instagram, "Obviously, they stole the pit, the rules, the judges, they're blocking staff from working our event, but I hope the finale goes off with a bang today." To him, this was a systematic theft of his entire event. The innovator had laid the tracks, and now the machine was driving a train right over them. Chapter 3. The other side of the story. Of course, in any feud this messy, there's another side to the story, and the UFC's defenders have pointed out some important details. Let's start with the pit. While Jones did get a patent for his specific design, he was open about where the idea came from. He was inspired after competing in karate combat, which has used its own patented pit for years. In fact, Jones was so impressed he called it the future of grappling, long before he launched his own event. Records show that Karate Combat holds the patents for its pit and has licensed the design to others, including the CJI. So the UFC could argue they were just following a market trend that Jones himself helped make popular, a trend that started with Karate Combat. Then there are the rules. The idea that the UFC stole the 3 5-minute rounds with a 10-point must system is also a bit murky. The UFC's counter-argument is simple. That's the format of MMA, the sport they built. Every UFC fight for decades has been structured this way. They can claim they aren't copying the CJI, they are just applying their own signature format to their new grappling league for brand consistency. From this perspective, Craig Jones didn't invent the format. He smartly borrowed it from MMA and was the first to make it work for a big grappling event. The UFC, seeing it succeed, just decided to bring the format home. Did the UFC lift the whole package from CJI after seeing how well it worked? Probably. But did Craig Jones invent every piece of it himself? No. That's how innovation often works. It's not about creating something from nothing, but about combining existing ideas in a new way. Jones was a brilliant synthesizer. The UFC, a corporate giant, saw a proven model and adopted it. Whether you call that theft or smart business, is at the heart of this whole thing. Chapter 4. The human cost. Beyond the arguments over patents and rules, this fight has a real human cost, with athletes caught in the middle. The UFC's playbook for taking over the grappling space seems to involve its most powerful tool, the exclusive contract. As the UFC builds its grappling roster, it's been signing athletes to deals that reportedly stop them from competing in other major promotions like ADCC or, more pointedly, the Craig Jones Invitational. This forces a tough choice on pro grapplers. The UFC offer brings massive exposure and a level of legitimacy that's hard to say no to. But that exposure comes with a price. Jones said the UFC offered him a 6-figure deal to coach and compete, but demanded full exclusivity. He refused, warning that this model will splinter the sport. He worries it will create a world where the best grapplers can't fight each other because they're locked into different promotions. This isn't just a hypothetical. Jones claims that after he turned them down, the UFC started blocking its contracted athletes from competing at CJI. The situation remains murky and is creating a lot of confusion. Jones has also been very critical of the UFC's pay for grapplers, revealing that some athletes are on deals for as low as $15,000 to show and $15,000 to win. He contrasts this with his own event, which offered a $1 million grand prize and has been a platform for better athlete pay. The fallout could even impact his work as a top MMA coach for UFC champions like Alexander Volkanovski. There's speculation the UFC might ban him from cornering his fighters, a move that would punish not just Jones, but the athletes who depend on him. This is the collateral damage of the war, a fractured sport where athlete freedom is shrinking and loyalties are being tested. Chapter 5. the verdict and the future. So, who's right and who's wrong? On one hand, you have Craig Jones, the innovator who mixed and matched ideas to create a groundbreaking event. He saw problems in pro grappling, stalling, boring resets, and bad pay, and he built a solution. He justifiably feels like his entire solution was stolen by a billion-dollar company that could have easily come up with its own ideas. On the other hand, you have the UFC, a corporate machine doing what machines do. They saw a successful, market-tested product and copied it, using a rule structure that was arguably theirs to begin with. In the brutal world of business, that's often just standard practice. But maybe the bigger question isn't who's right, but what this all means for the future of professional grappling. The UFC's arrival is a double-edged sword. Their money and marketing muscle could lift the sport to new heights, but that growth might come at a cost. The UFC's history in MMA shows a tendency to monopolize. Exclusive contracts and aggressive tactics can crush independent shows and limit what athletes can earn. Craig Jones's rebellion, then, is about more than a patent or a rule set. It's a fight against the corporatization of jiu-jitsu. It's a stand for a more open system where multiple promotions can succeed and athletes have the freedom to compete where they want, for the money they deserve. The future of the sport could hang in the balance. Will it become another walled garden controlled by one giant company? Or will it stay a vibrant, chaotic, and open marketplace for talent? The war between Craig Jones and the UFC is the first big battle in that much larger struggle. But what do you think? Did the UFC blatantly steal Craig Jones's blueprint? Or is this just business as usual in combat sports? Is Craig Jones fighting for the soul of jiu-jitsu? Or is this all just the inevitable price of the sport getting bigger? Let me know your verdict in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the feuds, figures, and future of combat sports, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.